Building the premier accounting firm and having a successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. This is the podcast for accounting professionals. I am Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm excited to be your host. We're going to be actually covering topics, tips, and tricks that you need to be aware of as you're building your successful accounting business. Who am I? I'm actually someone who's been in the accounting profession for 20 plus years. First, originally helping individuals find employment as a headhunter recruiter and enjoying the process of helping people find employment in positions that they later enjoyed and found careers in. From that, I transitioned into Universal Accounting Center, and as such, have been involved with helping individuals find the skills and the training that they need in order to achieve the career advancements that they're hoping for, but also helping individuals start and build successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax businesses. It's with that I've had the pleasure to meet many of individuals, thousands upon thousands of individuals around the United States, Canada, the world, helping them individually start and build their successful companies, whether it be a supplemental income, helping you actually do something on weekends and evenings to bring in that additional revenue, or if it's something that you're doing as a primary income, building that business that you can be proud of. Either way, Universal Accounting Center has been a successful part in assisting people doing that. Who is Universal? Universal Accounting Center is an accounting school, post-secondary school for accounting professionals, individuals such as people that are CPAs, people with degrees in accounting, people with 10, 15, 20 years of experience, traditionally come to Universal Accounting Center to focus on small business accounting procedures so as to offer the quality accounting services that their clients need, offering the services that are essential for them to get paid what they're worth. In reality, Universal Accounting Center focuses on providing the training, resources, certification, coaching, support, and mentoring needed to actually be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. So with that in mind, I'd like to actually welcome today to the show, Peter Frampton. This is going to be an exciting experience because Peter happens to be one of the co-founders of Color Accounting. Peter Frampton is a name that I'm sure you're familiar with, but it's perhaps not the individual you're thinking of. Peter happens to originally be from South Africa. He moved to Australia working with KPMG and met his co-founder, Mark Billiard, and they founded the company Color Accounting. He currently lives in Switzerland. He has 3 lovely daughters, and with his family, he actually travels quite a bit, but more importantly, travels for work more often. And today we find him in Washington, D.C., poised to do some visits with some past friends and family, but more importantly, doing some good business work when we're hoping that he has a phenomenal sell today. So with that in mind, let me introduce Color Accounting. For those of you who are not familiar, Color Accounting International, what they do is they're a finance and business acumen workshop for non-financial people using breakthrough graphical systems to learn accounting. The mission is basically helping people be empowered to make wise decisions, collaborate effectively, and amplify value in the financial conscious world. Color Accounting International is a publishing company, a licensing company, and an education provider. They've developed and distribute a color accounting learning system. They work with a network of accredited partners in different languages around the world, providing this premier accounting training service. They are a social enterprise with a dual social impact and commercial motive. They advocate accounting as a fundamental form of literacy, like reading, writing, and arithmetic. And accounting literacy has the power to improve lives, which I can attest to. It helps people within corporations, nonprofit organizations, and government roles. Accounting is something that I think we all need to respect as being the language of business. So it's important that we all understand it. And Color Accounting, the Color Accounting Network includes sales partners who provide educational workshops for their corporate clients, corporate educators who are accredited by the company to facilitate events and run corporate clients, and also academic educators who teach accounting in educational environments such as schools and universities. So, Peter, first of all, welcome to the show.
It's such a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you, Roger.
This is going to be quite fun. Now, obviously, I pointed out that Peter Frampton is a name that some may be familiar with. Who else is there that may be familiar with that name, Peter Frampton?
Are you asking me who the other Peter Frampton is?
Who's this other person, this bloke out there that might actually be that?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So if you're old enough like me, I always tease people if they know. It means that they're around in the 70s to know there was a famous guitarist and singer called Peter Frampton. And actually, he had the biggest live album of all time at that stage. He was in the Guinness Book of Records. And actually, we used to call our business Accounting Comes Alive because we feel we make it come alive for people. And it was a play on his famous album, which was Frampton Comes Alive.
That's right.
So,
yes. The accounting book is something I'm going to be bringing up here in a moment, but I'm going to have to say, I know you, so I'm happy to know you. And that's probably the thing that matters most. But I have to ask, do you play guitar?
I do not play guitar. I do not play guitar. I'm that bad, Roger. I don't even sing to myself in the shower.
Well, I have to say that I do. So there are occasions that I have been known to do that. The acoustics are great, so you got to take advantage of the opportunity. So let me ask, why are you passionate about accounting? I shared in the intro that obviously you've had a career in accounting. You've got an upbringing in South Africa. Why don't you introduce to us how you got started into accounting? In fact.
Well, I wasn't always passionate about accounting, but the more I've been around it and teach it, accounting is the most amazing thing. It's like one of the greatest historical inventions, and we should never forget it. It's what's enabled civilizations to be built. I mean, we know accounting is ultimately about accountability, and I've lived all over the world, and I've lived in places where there's tragic lack of accountability, and really, I mean, that's an allusion to corruption and so on.
Uh-huh.
And accounting throws light on things, and it's easy to forget because it's a bit like grammar, right? In our lives, it's like everybody who goes to work learned grammar at school and can construct benefits from being able to construct a proper written text and so on. Well, it's the same thing with accounting. We all rely on it, but it becomes a little bit invisible. And yet some of us, we don't have that skill. And our mission is to make it a universal skill. As you said, the 4th R, reading, writing, arithmetic, and reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just, if you stop and think about it, accounting is this fantastic technology. In fact, Roger, it was the enabling technology of Western civilization.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The South Africa, where I come from, and many other places, they were built on trade and the spice trade. You had the Dutch creating the Dutch East India Company in the 1500s, 1600s. And in the same way that the smartphones today enabled Uber and Facebook, and the phone was an enabling technology. Bookkeeping, little humble old bookkeeping, was the enabling technology that set us off as a civilization that we know today.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I jokingly refer to, it's something that some people find humor in, is the fact that I refer to accounting being the second oldest profession. I think as the second oldest profession, it just basically is a testament to the fact that once people had something they needed to keep track of, something that they found worth in fact, as they began bartering and exchanging, you needed a way of keeping track and finding equity. And accounting evolved into being that way of actually having that equity and tracking what it is that you had value in. So one of the things that I think is very important, as you're describing it, is historically accounting evolved, it improved. We got to the point with Farluca Pacioli that we had then double entry accounting, our debit and credit system that we're familiar with, and that's now stuck around for more than 500 years. It's such a proven system, such a sound system, that accounting really has become the backbone of society, and it's what enables cultures and economies to kind of bridge one another. And the thing that I'd end with is, like you've said, things evolve, but right now what we're seeing is, the artificial intelligence or the blockchain component that's being incorporated into the accounting model, but it's still based on kind of the debit credit philosophy, and that's still holding very, very true. But accounting, as intimidating as it is for so many people, that's where color accounting, I think, comes alive. And one of the things, and there's a pun there, by the way, one of the things that I think is important is you have your history in accounting, having worked at KPMG and everything, and that's where you met Mark. But what led you down this path to then start color accounting? What got you to that point of starting color accounting?
When Mark and I met, we both shared our experience learning accounting, and it was difficult for him and it was difficult for me. In fact, I failed Accounting 101 when I was at university.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first time in my life I'd failed anything, and I was so shocked I fell down the stairs and sprained my ankle. I remember that. And you should not
actually
laugh, Roger.
sustained bodily injury because of your shock.
Indeed. You're cutting right to the chase there. And then you're also cutting to my ego. Well, I like to joke that my ego was bruised. So I set out to prove that they taught it badly. It wasn't me that was stupid. But anyway, that counts for nothing. But what matters is that Mark and I met and we became fast friends. And we said there must be a better way. And we began searching for this better way. And, there's lots of other biographical details that happened in the meantime. He went one way, I went the other, and we parted ways, and then we came back together later. But we began this quest for a better way. And significantly, you know how you only make sense of things in hindsight. And we realized one of the things that happened was the color printer came along, the inkjet color printer. Now, of course, you'd had color printing for a long time, magnificent Heidelberg presses and things like that, but you never had a desktop color printer. And in about the mid-1990s, the Hewlett-Packard 500C was the first desktop color printer that would work with desktop publishing, what we then called desktop publishing. Now it's just publishing, right?
The fact that you could rattle that off amazes me, but continue.
Well, it was this particular, when I realized how significant it was because Roger, color accounting works so well to explain accounting and finance that we said to ourselves, hang on, why didn't someone do this before? We're no smarter than anyone else. So, and then we realized because the color printer wasn't around. So the history of color accounting, which is this, as a technology, it's an explanatory technology. And we like to think it does for accounting what the Macintosh and then Windows did for computing. It made it accessible and easy and exposed it to so many more people. Computing used to be in rooms for specialists. Now computing is in your pocket. And we want accounting to be, so to speak, in everybody's pockets. And what the printer enabled us to do was, never mind the fact of using, the first big idea was using color to connote debit and credit. So debit is green and credit is orange. And neurologically, the human mind processes that color more rapidly than it does the sort of left and right of T accounts. Mm-hmm. So that became much more intuitive. But much more important than that, we had this diagram, and Mark and I realized we didn't understand the diagram. At a sort of real deep, profound level, we don't fully understand.
And realize this is the two of you being degreed accountants at this point.
Oh, yeah. We were chartered accountants or CPA equivalents by then.
Yeah, and so here you are saying that you've gone through all the traditional training, all that schooling, and yet you still found yourself kind of wanting greater clarity as to the accounting model.
Absolutely. And we believe finding some inadequacies in the current expression of the concept of accounting. A Financial Accounting Standard Board in the US, FASB, and the International Accounting Standard Board in Europe, headquartered in London, they put out their frameworks and they differ a little bit. And there are a lot of accounting, because we accountants have so much skill and there's so much unconscious competence. Accountants are so good and they know what they're doing and they're so quick that they don't realize, for a start, how much skill they've developed unconsciously. And equally, they step over things and they forget to how other people can't step over things.
I love how you've just described that. I think that is phenomenal because it is unconscious. It's this thing that over time, it's a new language, and we become in the accounting profession so accustomed to the numbers that we're looking at that it just kind of sings to us or talks to us. And what we fail to realize is that there are many people that we're working with, whether it be owners of businesses, maybe it be managers or the like, that they don't have that familiarity or background. And so what's painfully obvious, perhaps to ourselves, it's hard to communicate effectively to a layperson what this information is screaming to us about the business. And so that's where I think color accounting is that bridge. And so please continue. This is wonderful.
Yeah. So, and just as an example of what you're describing there is if you drove stick shift car to work and I said, how did you change gears? You'd say, oh, I don't know. I just did it. It's become automatic. And so, there's so much of that in our day-to-day lives and when we're with clients and what you said, it's painful for them, but invisible to us. So we started trying to uncover some of this pain. And we discovered things, for example, so I'm an adjunct professor at American University in Washington, D.C., and I was talking to a Georgetown professor, and she said, no, you can't call that income. That's revenue. And I said, but income is revenue. And she said, no, it's not. And I said, well, what is income? She said, no, the income is profit. And I said, well, isn't that net income? And she said, well, they're the same thing, which, there's an irony in that. Income, net income. No wonder we're confusing other people. And never mind the fact that income doesn't actually come in. So there's language paradoxes in there. And then I started researching a bit and I realized, oh, wow, I didn't know. And I think many people would not know that in Europe, income means something different to what income means in America. Because in Europe, income officially is synonymous with revenue, whereas in the US, comprehensive income is defined by the Statement of Accounting, the concept paper, but it's more synonymous with profit. I agree with her. She was right, the Georgetown professor.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, there's also a situation, if you talk about your rental income, you don't mean your rental net profit, you mean your rental revenue.
But what you're describing for some people might be just semantics, but in reality, that's the problem with the communication is the definitions and really getting clarity on it. And so that's where I see what you're addressing here or why it's so important.
Oh, and it goes way beyond more than just semantics. We've had business owners, I can think of one in our class, whose businesses have died because of semantics, you could argue.
Agreed.
He was a frantic entrepreneur, this particular chap, and he inherited a business from his father, so he was proud and he wanted to prove to his dad he could do it, and the business failed. And so he started another one to really prove he could do it, and that also failed. And in the end, he wrote a book called Life After Liquidation. And it all hinged on him frantically managing his income statement, and he had lots of revenue, but he thought revenue meant money. But revenue doesn't mean money, you and I know that. And revenue was also in accounts receivable. And it's easy to say, well, come on, didn't he realize that? Well, no, he was a frantic entrepreneur who wasn't managing his balance sheet. He was managing his P&L, and that's very human.
Similarly to that, I attended a conference years ago in Washington, D.C., and on a panel, there was an individual that was a lobbyist with the congressman, and he shared that he was in a meeting with a group of Congress people who were basically struggling to understand how a business could be profitable but cash poor. They didn't understand that from an accrual point of view, you could have a business that top line revenue was doing phenomenally well. Net profit could actually be positive, and yet the company was bankrupt because it didn't have any of the monies it needed because everything was either on the balance sheet and the receivable side. And the Congress people, being that they weren't necessarily business people, they struggled to understand how companies could be so profitable and doing so well, but yet have no money to pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so important that they understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, everybody needs to understand this. That, at the risk of jumping ahead, I think that color accounting then ultimately evolved this diagram called the basis framework, which is a sort of acronymic for balance sheet income statement. And it's a 5-box model. You could envisage it in front of you. It's got these 5 boxes: assets, liabilities, equity, and revenue and expenses. And people, after we've taught them, they have a full understanding of this framework, how the parts interplay, and specifically the meaning of the words. And this we've put in the public domain this diagram. And if those congressmen just saw that diagram on the wall and you could point, you say, no, you're talking about this up here, I'm talking about this down here.
Yes.
Like literally it creates this pointability that would solve that. They might not fully get their heads around the mechanics of double entry yet, but just being able to say, no, they're up there, top left, that's the cash. Bottom right down here, sources of funds, credit account, that's the revenue. And then not the same thing.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, I know you've just jumped ahead, so I'm going to kind of go where we're at, and then we're going to back up. I think what you're really describing here is a wonderful way for people, whether it be accounting professionals or not, to really grasp the accounting model in a fun, engaging way that's different than the more traditional, if I wanted to use that word, because generally speaking, accounting is like math. It's basically it's on paper, it's pencil doing formulas. But when you get to take, like you've created with Mark, this gamification of the accounting experience to where someone can learn visually, with the colors. They can tactily learn through moving and physically handling the expenses or the transactions. I think this is amazing because it's like a game, something you get to involve your different sensories with, but most importantly, it's not using the accounting language of debits and credits and such. It's just a game of an experience as transactions occur within this company. And in the end, you have a confidence of, oh my heavens, I get what just happened. This is like a game that I can move these things around and I can see where the flow is. And this makes sense. So I love what you've done. But let's back up to the book. I want to go backwards because I think the book is, in my opinion, a very telling part of this. You obviously wrote with Mark the book, Accounting Comes Alive, and it's a parable, it's a story. And essentially what it is it's a story of two individuals. It's Craig and Zach. Tell me about the book and tell me about Craig and Zach.
Well, so here you have like a grandfather and grandson uh, just having a chat in the kitchen, and grandfather is explaining to the grandson how this works, how accounting works, and boiled down to the simplest terms. It's hard to be simple. You know that it's easy to be fancy, and it's easy to be complicated. So distilling this down to a sort of parable form, it really just takes it down to its very essence about describing the balance sheet, describing the mechanics of double entry, using the color system as we do, and what else can I say? Yeah, we have this book. We have another book that's about to be released, actually, which is much more sort of technical in its explanation. It's a full sort of workshop in a book, but it is all so accessible. It's quite different to any other sort of book that you'll find out there because people often get lost in the weeds. I know after I left KPMG, it took a long time to sort of see, as they say, the wood for the trees, the big picture. Again, it's this challenge that we all have as accountants, and I know the listeners to this podcast have, is that we're so in it. We often get caught up in what I like to call second and third order issues, the complicated issues and depreciation or whatever the sort of more advanced issues are, instead of standing back and seeing the essence, which is just those five things: assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses, and how they work together at a high level.
Well, I think there's two things that I would want to bring up right here. First of all, in reference to the book, you spoke of it as being a simple way where you've got another book coming out that's more technical. The nice part about Accounting Comes Alive as a parable, as a story, is great to just in a narrative introduce the accounting principles as to why they're relevant and how they're applicable. And more importantly, it's an easier read only because of the fact that it's in a story form. And so the book I like because it's basically something
Yes.
that as accounting professionals we can give to our clients and give to those people that don't have the accounting background to say, here, I'd like you to read this. I think it'll actually help us communicate better. I think it will allow us to have a dialogue where you'll have questions now that you can ask rather than wondering what to ask or how do I not sound unintelligent and say something I ought not. Rather, let's give you some vocabulary here in a very simple way to now start a dialogue between us. And I believe as accounting professionals, this is important because, yes, there is the intimidation of we want them to value and respect what we do. It is something that we've taken years to learn, and it is a service that we provide that we're wanting to get paid for. But at the end of the day, as accounting professionals doing the work for our employers or our clients, we don't want to then just provide financial reports that are ones that they can't use to make informed decisions. We need to make it so that these reports they're receiving on a regular basis are in fact ones that they can intelligently then use to make informed business decisions in their companies and see the value as to what it is we're doing beyond just we're making sure that the financials are accurate and correct. I'm empowering you with information so that you can make more intelligent business decisions. And that relationship becomes more and more critical, more and more essential in the business. And I believe color accounting is the bridge that's needed for the two people. One, the business owner, the non-accountant, to understand the accountant. But more importantly, in my opinion, it's important for the accountant to now have a way to communicate that is intelligent to the non-accountant. Both people need to go through this. This isn't something you just say, all of my accountant or all of my clients read this. All of my clients go to the color accounting class. As accounting professionals, we also need to do this so that we can better be translators of this accounting language that we're so passionate about.
Roger, this has got to be the key theme of this discussion we're having, which is about communicating better between client and professional accountants.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't talk enough about this because there's such an opportunity to serve our clients better. The clients are scared of what we do, and they don't understand it. And so they, what do we do with things we're scared of? We stay away from them. So, imagine knowing that your client really wants to stay away from you. I mean, it's a recipe for not growing your business, not giving the best service, and not being in communication to find more business opportunities for the accountant, really.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't want to be producing real-time reports. And let's be clear, clients these days want real-time reports that can be used, month to month. They should be wanting that anyway.
Yes.
We've got to teach them to want. Even if they don't, we have to teach them to want month-to-month reports,
to see the value in having that regular information. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Instead of it's something I have to do at the end of the year because the IRS says I must, and then engage with them. And we all know that the best place to get more business is from your existing clients. And clients give us what they don't want to do. I mean, if you think about it, they don't want to be doing the tax return, they don't want to be doing this, they don't want to be doing that. So they give it away. And we want to be in communication with them such that we can start to find out what they do want to do. Oh, yes, I would like to have some time to find a new source of cash, or raise a new loan, or a new loan application, or SBA, Small Business Administration loan, so that I could expand the business and buy that new equipment and start the new division that I've always wanted to start. Well, that's waiting unspoken in your client. Your client's waiting to tell you that. You just don't know your client's waiting to tell you that because you're not in general communication with your client. I'm exaggerating here, Roger, but this is the point, that if we communicate more powerfully by making it more accessible, the client appreciates what we do instead of thinking of us as bean counters. Mm-hmm. They get to understand, they get to engage, they get to appreciate the work, and so they start asking for more work. And what else can you do for me? I think that's really what this is about.
So with that context, how can an accounting practice use color accounting to benefit them?
Well, hey, an accounting practice could sell color accounting. We could partner with an accounting firm and deliver, show them how to deliver themselves, or deliver on their behalf a full course to their client. We work with bookkeepers who will not work with a client unless the client has done a color accounting workshop, because they feel that the communication is just orders of magnitude better, and the client is more appreciative, and the whole relationship is just generally so much more productive. So an accounting practice could offer a full one-day color accounting workshop to their client. They could sell it so they could actually make money out of it. But what I'd like to think, or maybe is even more important, is this framework that I've described, the BASIS framework, balance sheet, income statement, poster. It's actually downloadable from coloraccounting.com/poster, and I believe from the Universal Accounting School website too. So an accounting professional could download this poster. Literally, it's just a diagram, and they would know how to then just use this to speak to a client. But now you've got a diagram you can point to. Now you see your receivables are too high here, and so your inventory over here. That's caused your cash to be too low. So we need to bring these down, and down here, your revenue, we really need to get it up by 5% or whatever. In other words, I'm just describing the situation where you're pointing, and it's amazing what pointing, we call it pointability, does. So what I'm saying in summary is anyone can download this diagram, print it out, either poster size, or we have clients who put it on the conference room wall, and then whatever matter comes up, you're just pointing to this diagram. It's so powerful. or you print it out and laminate an I was going to say A4, that's metric, a letter-sized version of it, and use it. Yeah, we want people to be using this.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'd like to do here is, first of all, take a moment to mention our sponsors, and then I'm going to tie this in. The sponsors essentially today are Color Accounting, and for that, I'd like to invite you to actually get a copy of the book, Accounting Comes Alive. One of the things that I would stress is not only reading it yourself to become familiar with just the story so that you can properly introduce this to your clients, but actually consider giving this as gifts to your clients. This is an excellent book that they'll appreciate as they come to appreciate now your services, the accounting model, and how it will actually benefit them in the businesses that they are running. One of the things that you can actually do with Accounting Comes Alive is share this as a gift at holiday seasons, and most importantly, give it to them as they are onboarding with you as a new client to help them appreciate the role that you'll be serving for them as an accounting professional. The second thing I'd like to invite you to do is actually attend and participate with the class Color Accounting. Enroll now as yourself to take this class and become familiar with this entire model that Peter is sharing and literally see what it is that accounting can do for you. Already knowing, already being trained and certified, already offering accounting services, go through a Color Accounting class, attend this curriculum, do it online with Universal Accounting Center, and see what it is that you can open up and learn about your own profession to see how you can better communicate with your clients. From there, you'll have the opportunity to then introduce your clients to the class and have them go through this one-day training and experience it for themselves. So with that, as sponsors, take advantage of both the book Accounting Comes Alive and the course Color Accounting as a workshop class. Now, Peter, what I think you're sharing here is so important because with regards to the person actually using color accounting in their business, I think first and foremost, it is actually a communication means that you can use to improve the client retention, but it is a service that you can offer. You can go through and actually become certified as a color accounting instructor, and as such, teach classes and workshops in your specific area, inviting your clients to those to attend, have them bring their employees to participate. But it's also a great way of, in your local area, becoming known as the color accounting expert and literally teaching the community at large this whole new philosophy of accounting so that they can actually see you as the expert. And from that, get the clients that will trickle in as well, just offering this accounting class. And it can be done in a public setting where you're having everybody come in and register and attend the class, or more importantly, it's something that they can do where they literally do it as private sessions within companies and just do it for those that are employed there specifically. With that in mind, let me ask, what should we understand of the term accounting literacy? What does that mean?
So accounting literacy is interesting because we all know the term financial literacy. So financial literacy is such a broad church, and governments all over the world are spending a fortune on promoting financial literacy. But what is financial literacy? Well, it ranges from microeconomic theory, macroeconomic theory, to savings rates, to credit card usage, to 401ks, to tax policy, and how to conduct one's finances in totality. It's too big.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the root cause analysis, if you do a root cause analysis on people's financial situations, what's often the problem is the layer underneath financial literacy, which really should be seen as a distinct layer, and that's accounting literacy.
Mm-hmm.
So what is accounting literacy? Accounting literacy is the ability to see where you are and how you got there. Balance sheet, where I am, income statement, how I got here. And it's so simple. That's essential. That mostly what people need more than anything else is just to know what's going on. If you want to get to New York and you ask me, how do I get to New York? Well, firstly, I'd say, where are you? Then I'll tell you how to get to New York once I know where you are.
Good point.
And and people just need to know how they're going. In many respects, people, you need to give them the fishing rod. Don't give them the fish. Just give them the ability to see what's going on, and they'll know that, I've got to stop selling and start calling to get my receivables down. Or I've got to lower my expenses. Oh wow, I didn't realize I was spending that much on entertainment. Oh, I'll definitely spend a whole lot less on entertainment now because I was unconscious. That's accounting literacy, and I think it could be uh, yeah, it could change everything if people appreciated more that the solution to uh, you know business issues and personal finance issues is just knowing what's so.
Well, one of the things that I can appreciate about the term accounting literacy is the following. One of the divisions of our company, Universal Accounting Center, is a division called Universal Business Builder. It's where we do business coaching services for business owners of many an industry. It's beyond the accounting emphasis that we have. We're working with accounting owners. And what happens is when we typically onboard a business client and we're doing business coaching with them, one of the first few months, we have a session where we actually have them bring their financial reports. And this is our first time seeing them typically. We put those out and we say, tell us the story here. Tell us what's happening. And what's interesting is they've experienced this business of theirs day in, day out. They've lived it, they've breathed it. And yet, what happens is as they look at the financials, they can't tell the story. It's as if someone else took a different language, accounting, by the way, and in this different language tried to tell the story of the business over the last 3 years, 1 year, last quarter, and they struggle to tie what their experiences are and have been to the numbers they're seeing on the pages. But over time, now fast forward working with us as a business client, over time, we get to the point where the financial reports, they can look at the numbers and explain what the numbers are representing and the changes. It was in this month we implemented this advertising campaign. It was in this month that we implemented this accounts receivable campaign to collect our receivables better. It was in this month that we hired this employee. They can, in the numbers, see the changes, and as the numbers have those noticeable changes, they can explain what's going on with the decisions in the company. And all of a sudden, the numbers come alive. Their accounting literacy has improved and increased. And it's amazing because over time, now the business owner actually feels comfortable looking at the reports. In fact, they enjoy telling the story of the reports. And so I think this is just fascinating because imagine walking in as a business owner to an investor or to a bank or to a venture capitalist, and you're having to explain your financials. Well, now you can articulate what's going on that
Oh
the
yeah.
numbers are representing. And so I can't tell you enough how much I agree that accounting literacy is important. They need to be able to read it. It's almost like being taught how to read Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics, yes.
There you go. Or you're learning how to read, let's say, Chinese or Japanese, the kanji. What's happening here is you're getting to the point where these numbers are telling stories. Within that number is a paragraph of information. And I think
Yeah.
that kanji or that hieroglyph, I can't even say the word today. Hieroglyph is literally now communicating a wealth of information. It's like the picture's worth 1,000 words type of a thing.
Absolutely. I love how you talk about story because story is so powerful. Human beings have done stories for millennia around campfires. And that's in fact what we do in a color accounting workshop. We start the day by saying, look at this scary, and in fact we print a balance sheet and income statement over the top of a zebra so it looks extra scary. There's sort of these stripes. And we say, if we can turn that into a cogent business story, isn't that going to be powerful? And of course, that's where we end. And it's so empowering for the business owner to realize what story they're living inside of, and then how they can change the story.
Very well said. I love that. So I'm going to break away for our sponsor announcement. Obviously, today's episode is being sponsored by Color Accounting. So again, I invite you to get a copy of the book, Accounting Comes Alive, and see for yourself how the story of accounting can be relevant in a person's life, and learn this story of a grandfather and grandson as they actually go through this experience in a fun, exciting way. And then secondly, I invite you to actually register for and attend the online training of accounting or color accounting, so that you also can experience what we're discussing here and see how accounting actually can morph into something new, where it is this tactile, color-induced visual experience that you can now actually enjoy as accounting. Just like many accountant and CPAs that I've already known that have gone through the training say that they've never seen accounting this same way as before. There are so many individuals out there that learn through auditory, through visual, through tactile. They like to experience things to learn best. here's your first chance perhaps to actually experience accounting in an entirely different way. And I invite you to do so. Register now for Color Accounting with Universal Accounting Center and experience this class for yourself. The other thing I'd like to share is through Universal Accounting Center, we're also providing the book In the Black. In the Black is a book that's meant to help you as an accounting professional understand what 9 things you need to do in your business to be profitable. Get a copy of the book now as a special offer. The ebook is available for you to take and read and apply the principles in your life so that these 9 principles can actually help you build the business you can be proud of and literally be in the black. Now, with that, Peter, I just have some quick, fun kind of questions for you. The first one is basically an accounting quote. Do you have any quote or something that you regularly go to as a way of kind of just speaking to the accounting profession?
I'm going to preface this with a little bit of a comment, which is that one of the things we feel it's important that people understand is what balance sheets cannot do.
Okay.
Because lay people are often in awe of accountants, thinking that we've got access to some kind of universal truth. I know it's the Universal Accounting Center, but it's not a universal truth, is it, Roger? So we need to explain to people that sometimes the most important asset of a business isn't on the balance sheet. Coca-Cola's brand is not on Coca-Cola's balance sheet, and yet who's going to argue that the brand Coca-Cola is not the most important thing that corporation has? And so, yeah, it's important that people understand what accounting can do as well as what it cannot do. That said, the things that count, you can't count. I love that quote because, of course, it's philosophical about life, isn't it? You can't count the things that count, which is the love of family and your health and community and peace and things like that. So I love that. You can't count what really counts.
Well said. I do like that. And actually, that's going to lead me to a question that you're not prepared for, but I think you can contribute here. Just this last week, I attended a funeral of a friend of mine. His spouse passed away. I've known them for years, and she battled a short battle with cancer, lost that, and at age 50, passed away.
Ooh.
And I bring this up because I think a lot of people struggle with funerals, but they had a wonderful life celebration, and attending that, I find that it's very grounding for me to go to a funeral, only because I think it just kind of recalibrates me as to the things that are important and reminds me of those
Isn't that
people
so
or
true?
those things that are so important to me.
Yes.
And it helps me reprioritize things because they may have gotten out of whack in my life and I need to reprioritize. I'm just kind of curious. For you, a funeral, is that something that you find recalibrating helpful? What's your opinion of a funeral?
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I often think, wow, live your life so that they could say good things about you at that celebration of your life.
Mm-hmm.
That final celebration. And I think something I think I'm quite good at is keeping in mind the big picture with the day to day, and that, like, what's this really about? Hey, don't get me wrong. I like all of us, we lose track and we lose sight and we need to recalibrate. But in a way, that's what I want for all your listeners on to this podcast is like, they're good at what they do and they're frantic and they're busy and head down and day to day, and we're all swamped by the day to day and their clients are demanding lots of things of them. But to stand back and say, wow, this is really about human lives. I'm helping people, achieve abundance and get access to abundance. And it's someone's life on the other side of this accounting service that I'm offering. And I want to communicate more powerfully with them. It's not about accounting. What you're doing is not about accounting. It's about helping another human being. So absolutely, Roger, I'm with you that if it takes us going to funerals to remember that, then let's go to more funerals.
Well, definitely don't want more people passing away, but I agree with you. They're very, very, they're very helpful, and I find them therapeutic because I get to reflect on my own life. I get to reflect on those things that matter most to me. I liked how you described it. We're helping people in accounting. These people are running businesses. They're trying to be successful in what they do. They have the challenges that they're facing. They have their passions. And what we want to do with our passion is help them excel and succeed. As they grow, our business gets to thrive. And more importantly, we're helping them do what matters most to them. This is how they provide for their family. This is how they put a roof over their family's head. And in turn, this is how we do it for ourselves. And I'm a workaholic. I admit that. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, and I bring that energy and enthusiasm to the day as often as I can, if not daily. And one of the things that I just need to be reminded of is I need to take a breath. I need to, kind of look up and remember why I'm doing this. And it is my family, and it's my wife, it's my children, and I want to be verbal about that. When I was being raised, my father wasn't one who verbally said "I love you," and it was one of those. It was one of those known things. So I'm old enough that I was raised perhaps in a more common culture where it was more the actions speak louder than words, perhaps in our household. And it was kind of the unspoken thing. But one day, my father wrote for me. I was, I think, 16. And it was an activity where the instructor, the teacher, reached out to the parents to write letters to the students, we as pupils. And he wrote a letter. It was heartfelt. And in there, he said he loved me. And I've treasured this to this day. I still have the letter.
Wow.
My father's since passed away. And it testified of the fact that I never doubted whether or not my father said it. But the fact that he said it so infrequently meant so much that he'd written it down for me. But having grown that way, having been raised that way, I say I love you all day long to my family, my spouse, my children. The word may be used too much because I'm just wanting everyone to always understand and know that. And most importantly, I don't want to ever have the regret of having not said it when I should have. So
if it's heartfelt, you can't say too much, Roger, if it's heartfelt. And I know it is in your case, because I know what a warm and embracing and loving person you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad we're ending on this note. This is a good note. I think we all need a reminder of in our lives that the work we do has purpose, but what's the meaning of it all? And I think at the end of the day, there's a survey that's done of people that pass, and it asks on their deathbeds what they regret most. And the first and foremost is one that we're all familiar with. It's that I wish I'd have spent more time with friends and family. I wish I would have done things with the people that matter most to me and let them know how much I love and care for them. But the second thing is often not stated. The second most common regret is not having done more, tried more, and ventured more, attempted more things, been more daring because of fear of failure and fear of regret.
Right.
And I think that's a testament to the fact that we just need to go live life and understand that we only live once. And accountants as a profession, we typically are categorized as being risk adverse. And starting an accounting business, running an accounting business is risky enough, but let's live life a little and just try and remember that. So this is a beautiful discussion, Peter. I think this is amazing. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I just second everything you've just said there. Yep.
This is beautiful.
Carpe diem, seize the day. And
excellent. Very good. Yeah. So with that, let me just kind of end this with a nice little recap. Obviously, we have our sponsors today of Universal Accounting Center getting a copy of the book In the Black, 9 Principles to Running a Very Successful Business, but more importantly, being profitable. The second and third thing is that of Keller Accounting, getting a copy of Accounting Comes Alive, and as well attending and registering now for you to attend and go through the Keller Accounting course. With that, I understand that you will actually learn accounting in an entirely new light and have a greater appreciation for what accounting truly is, even as an accounting professional, but more importantly, then understand how to perhaps better communicate this information, this important information with your clientele. So with that in mind, I appreciate you, Peter, being on the show today. I think this was an excellent discussion. I think it was wonderful to have us kind of talk about not only your experience and journey and what you've created, but also how it's beneficial to our profession to really make accounting a little bit more useful. And with that in mind, I encourage everyone to subscribe to this podcast and listen to our other episodes. And I invite you to listen to the other episodes as we cover a variety of topics to help you with the tips and tricks and things you need to consider as you're running a successful accounting business. In fact, as the podcast says, we're helping you build the premier accounting firm. And as such, I invite you to also also find out more information about how you can apply these principles in your business by reaching out directly to Universal Accounting Center. You can visit us at universalaccountingschool.com, as well as give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. And understand this, with accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day, and thanks for listening in. Bye-bye.